apparatus all cleaned up tonight. Oh my, it's a disaster. What in the world is going on? Sorry about all that. We've got some technical difficulties. Wow, I remember my first time going live. I do. What's up? Happy, what day is it? Happy Wednesday? Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. We're talking like the 5 most haunted houses in the United States, the U.S. of A. Yeah, I'm 1 minute late. I didn't mean to be, and then I have all these technical difficulties. It's been nuts. It's been nuts. The Sallie House. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Sallie House. Okay, we have done so many deep dives. I'll let you in. Tomorrow we're doing a video on White Boy Rick. That short got so much attention. White Boy Rick, we're doing this video that releases tomorrow. It's really sad that the system used a guy. They got a lot out of him too, and he's still just chilling in prison. Just chilling. The Sallie House, Kansas. That's what we're talking about. It's a little home. It's not so quaint. It's originally built as a doctor's office in the 19th century. Dr. Charles Finney, he was known to do medical, I guess surgeries, if you will. And this little girl in the middle of the night, the mom brings the little girl to this doctor's office because she's having a very, very painful episode of sorts. He does emergency surgery, but he does it before the morphine or the, what's the word I'm trying to say? Before the medicine kicks in. And I almost said epidural. She's a little kid. She's not having a baby. Nonetheless, before the medicine kicks in, she feels so much so that she dies from pain and being essentially scared to death. After that, the kid, of course, it's anesthesia, by the way. I made the note and I forgot what the word was. So she was consumed by pain and fear, and she died. And then if you fast forward to the 20th century, late 20th century, this family moves in, the Pickman family, Pikeman, and they move into this house. They would become familiar with its unexplainable phenomena, and toys would move just all the time, and they would hear noises that were that of like a child, and they were like overwhelmed to the point where they had brought in a priest. Now, this is documented as far as this family living there, having all these experiences, loving the house, but hating what was happening to them. Nonetheless, they had this priest do an exorcism. The exorcism did little. Nonetheless, they leave. They move out, and they're like, peace out. So they left this house that they absolutely love. Small fires, by the way, would start in the house. No reason why. Like, just in different areas, which is crazy. So, in Kansas, yeah, Wichita, they get a lot of stuff, apparently. That's interesting. So they say that it's pretty scary around there. You know what's not scary? I just got a report. My single Yet, it's still holding at Billboard at number 23. It's been on the charts for like 10 weeks. I'm super excited. Last time is number 20 at US Radio, USAC Radio, and they say it's like boiling. I guess that's the word. It's an industry word. It means it's like right there on the charts. Nonetheless, pretty interesting. See, now I'm losing my spot here. Sallie House, and then the next we're talking, I made a note, and it's all over the place. Let me find it. Just give me a second, people. This is why I was terrible at school, okay? I was terrible at school. The Lemp Mansion, I don't know if you've heard of that, St. Louis, Missouri. I mean, I was an Ozzie Smith fan in baseball. He would always do his backflips, telling my age. So this place is marked by, of course, tragedy. Late 19th century, of course. The Lemp family was a symbol of prosperity and wealth. They were proud owners of this thriving beer brewing business. Say that 3 times fast. Beer brewing business. Have you ever been on a brewery tour? It's pretty amazing and interesting. Nonetheless, it was a testament, the house, to their success, their fortunes, but it took a dark turn. This house soon became a stage for a series of tragic events. And then Frederick Lemp, the favorite son. How can you have a favorite son? You know? Honestly. Like, I have 4 kids. None of them are my favorite. I love them. I don't love one more. I like there are things about the baby that I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Obviously, the baby does things that, nonetheless. Anyway, favorite son and heir. to the family business died under mysterious circumstances, probably because, if history repeats itself, they're the ones that are getting something slipped in their little drinky drink. Devastated by the loss, his father, William, took his own life in the very same mansion. As if this wasn't enough, 3 more family members were unable to bear the grief, followed suit over the years. That is, I don't want to say that suicide is a hereditary thing, and I'm saying all this very delicately, but families who have experienced suicide, and I say this, and I meet you during if this meets you delicately, then I express my love, but I have noticed that being in the funeral profession, whenever we receive a loved one into our care, it's common that there have been suicide previous, whether it be like the children, the siblings, the spouses. It's very interesting, and it sparked a lot of conversation. And the Lemp family, they have had the dad and then 3 more family members after the father, because of the heaviness and the weight of the grief, took their lives over the course of years. And that's something to have a conversation about. Mental health awareness is critical for me to talk about, and I want to let anybody know, if you or someone is struggling, just let it be known. I wrote a song called Need You to Know, inspired by that, because of the weight and heaviness of. So I want to take a moment to just talk about it. Just say, I'm not well. And people who hear that, be ready to just sit with it. You don't have to fix it, but people need to know they're loved. Okay. So this Lemp family, the prosperous family, were essentially reduced to the shadow version of themselves, because so many people had gone before them. And this legacy is now of sorrow, despair, not of prosperity, not of a business, thriving business, etc. So this residence now has, they call them phantom footsteps, if people are familiar, if they're into this world of the paranormal. I mean, the rabbit holes, right? The rabbit holes. There's a music room, by the way. This is what very much intrigued me. The instrument had not been touched in years. There's this piano that will have this very faint, almost sounds as if it's playing, allegedly is playing, but it's not touched, so it said. And then, of course, you have disembodied voices whispering in the night. Could you imagine? It's insane. It's insane. So William Lemp Jr., known, only as the monkey-faced boy, was allegedly kept hidden from the world because he had a birth defect that altered his physical appearance, and he was just kind of hidden away. His family made sure that he wasn't in public eye, and then they say that because of that, this little boy, and what remains of, kind of make sure that people know that he's still around. It's very, very interesting. Nonetheless, last night, I don't know what the hell was going on, but we received 1,300 new subscribers last night. We had a huge spike at the website, which, by the way, new merch launches tomorrow. And everybody, thanks for all the support of last time streaming it. It's been going nuts. 2 more top 40 stations picked it up, so I'm really excited about it. I really am. So this mansion actually remains a popular destination for people who want to explore it. I went to Walgreens the other day, and there is, in Louisville, Kentucky, I can't even think of what it's called now, but it doesn't matter because she was working there. She had the shirt on. I can't think. She paid to stay overnight like a nut. I was like, you're crazy. I would never in a million years. She's like, I loved it. Like, no. Myrtle's Plantation, this is another place. So these are, what we're talking about are some of the most haunted, allegedly, teeming with ghostly activity. It's the heart of the Bayou State. So this is 1796. The house was bustling. It was a center of trade, wealth, of course, built on the backs of enslaved men and women. It's known today for being one of the most haunted houses in America. There's a lot of plantations that they say have which obviously, I mean, I would think that, of course, it would carry a lot of heaviness and weight. It'd be, you know, it was during a time when slavery is terrible and what people did, right? So if in fact you believe in this hatefulness or energy or whatever, I just know you leave a mark. You're going to be remembered for something, and I hope that, you know, the place and space that I create now is one of inclusion and kindness and welcome. And if I am to haunt this studio, which is, by the way, the most cold freaking room, the heat is not working here. I've got a space heater going. I've got my coat on. It's really cold. Nonetheless, so this individual, not individual, but this individual plantation is said to be home to at least a dozen entities, ghosts, spirits. None are as infamous as Chloe. So this Chloe met a tragic end, and this, it becomes a legend, but Chloe existed. There are stories of Chloe, and then, of course, I don't know when it started to gain feet and becomes telephone. That's why it's, I don't want to say fun, but it's interesting for me to read articles and to not just, you know, whether it be read one or watch one video or watch one documentary. I like to kind of dive a little bit deeper. So this is my passion. I get asked a lot, like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do when you're not recording or writing or working? And I'm like, I like to take deep dives into history, and history always seems to include the unknown, which we're talking about. So Chloe was caught eavesdropping, the master, of course, on his conversation, and as punishment, one of her ears was cut off, and she was forced to wear a green turban to hide her disfigurement. So in a twisted act of revenge, she apparently baked a birthday cake laced with oleander leaves, which is a deadly plant in the South, intending to make her master sick, but instead she ended up poisoning this master's wife and 2 small children. That's terrible. I mean, she's just trying to get back at somebody. I would say an eye for an eye. I mean, what do you think? Let me know. I mean, do you think that, you know, a lot of countries, if murderers are caught and found guilty, they're executed? I don't know what you believe. I'm not talking necessarily death penalty, but it's like you have sex offenders and they're chemically castrated. See if they'll have that problem again, kind of thing. What do you think? I mean, she was just trying to get back at him, ends up accidentally hurting a innocent woman and 2 children, which is terrible, sad. They all died, and they've since seen a woman in the green turban wandering the grounds, as well as the ghost, interesting, of kids. Playing on the veranda. I mean, I was painting a room upstairs above a funeral home that I lived in, and I remember for 2 nights by myself listening to what I thought was just like a little playground down in the funeral home area. And on the 3rd day, my mother comes to see the room that I painted, and I was telling her the story. Super devout Christian lady. She's like, "You're on drugs." She didn't say I was on drugs. I'm not on drugs. She was like, "Oh, that's nothing. It was just noises from the funeral home being built in 1860. No, she heard it too. She was like, "Oh, you're scared. I know you're scared. You're scared. Let's go back." So she heard it. Nonetheless, kids are scary. So eerie photographs have become part of the daily routine at this haunted bed and breakfast. It's now a bed and breakfast, by the way. So they see Chloe in some pictures or silhouettes of. What do you think that is? I mean, okay, let's say it does. None of this exists, but why are there things that are going to appear here? You know? Did you know that Post Malone, he too likes ghosts and this kind of paranormal stuff? So we're like broing out with the ghosts. I like the ghosts. This is one of the places that's filled with deep sorrow, sadness. I mean, it's always the sad, heavy weighted places in which that have all this stuff. Like I said, this place and space are happy. I don't think anybody's going to be haunting or popping in photos and being scary and gross, you know? Oh no. Have you all heard they always end up making a movie like the Hollywood, the Amityville, New York. That's scary. There's a large Dutch colonial home. This is a scary story. It was in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the Amityville Horror House. That movie is, I don't like scary movies. And if anything remotely similar happened, probably far more gruesome than I cannot imagine. 1974, this is absolutely true as far as what happened. The family, all but one, were found brutally murdered in their beds. The sole survivor, Ronald, confessed to the killings, citing voices in the house that drove him to commit the unthinkable. Yeah, it's really sad. It's very sad. Like, he took an axe and killed his entire family because he was hearing these voices that told him to do so, which, of course, if you go back in history, even if you are someone of faith, you would say that that's something of demonic. Dear Lord, please don't let nothing happen to any of us. Amen. Not you either. So the Lutz family moved into the same house, unaware of the horror that awaited them. 28 days, just 28 days, they lasted. They started experiencing unusual and terrifying phenomena that quickly turned their dream home into a living nightmare. They would wake up every morning at like 3:15, witching hour. It's the exact same time that the murders took place, which is scary to think about. And then, of course, swarms of flies, which didn't make sense because it was freezing cold out and the flies couldn't have survived. Nonetheless, that is pretty common in a lot of accounts of not just this, but other stuff. Yeah, it's very interesting. Cold spots, foul smells, and waking up with welts and bruises on their bodies. So they even said that they saw this demonic boy with glowing red eyes, a pig-like creature with red eyes called Jody, and hooded figures. Like, this is all corroborated. These aren't now legends. These have been stories that have stayed the same and passed on, since 1974. So it's pretty scary. It's been resold several times, and it's I don't know. This is a chilling story, whether you believe in ghosts or not. I think if you just walked into this house knowing that so many people were brutally killed by a family member, by the dad, then you'd be like, what the hell? But if you want to watch the movie and kind of get an idea of what the hell went on, then have at it. No thank you, though. No thank you. Why? I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know why I do this. I'm like, hey, let's learn about this, and we'll talk about this in the live. And then, oops. So then I just like to break it up and say, thanks for supporting the music. No, I posted on Facebook, Nathan Morris Music on Facebook. We were asking people, like, if you could know when your last moments would be on this side of life, would you want to know? And everybody's like, no, I don't want to know. I want to be alone, comfortable, sleeping in my bed, which last time is about that idea of if this is your last moment, what are you going to do with it? Which then I say, why don't you choose good now? Because we don't know when that last moment will be. Because we do leave a mark. We are remembered for something. Obviously, you have this family who have done are known for terrible acts, right? So you leave a mark. Choose good. And then I lost my spot because I'm over here talking. So Limb family, Myrtle's Plantation. Huh. Interesting. So there was a hanged man at I think it's the Whaley House. Yeah. Interesting. So this was a note that I overlooked. But apparently a dude was hanged. The house, the Whaley House. Now he's just, just hanging out. His spirit, by the way, not him. That wasn't my attempt to be funny. Or what is it called? Backhanded humor? Yeah, I woke up this morning. I'll tell you, I woke up this morning. So what is happening is this is an opportunity for me to just share what I like to dive into after work, or even when I need to take a break. I like to research and learn. I love history. I love World War II history. I love learning about people before us, and usually it always includes some sort of either crime or unexplainable. But I woke up today and I saw this massive spike. I get reports from the team as far as, hey, you've had this many people are interacting with, they like this video, they like that video. And the video here talking about the story of last time and as well as me reacting to Mr. Beast burying himself for 7 days. There was a huge spike, like 15,000 views. They're both like 40-minute videos. I'm like, what the hell, you know? So I'm talking about the why I wrote last time. I kind of touched on that. But Mr. Beast, if you do not know, you know, he's kind of known on YouTube, but he chose to bury himself for 7 days. I don't know. He did a psychological evaluation. They're like, you know what? This could be really bad because he's alone. He's not moving. So doctors, you can get blood clots. It's very dangerous, actually. He was using like what are those called? Like the military meals. He was using those to eat, and then he would, you know, use the restroom in them. But he just laid there and he read. So I was pretty spot on. I was watching it in real time. I was like, you know, he said this, so basically at day 3 he was getting a little bit agitated, and MRE. Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate that. He was getting a little agitated. By like day 4, he's crying. Day 5, I mean, he before our eyes starts to just deteriorate, and it showed a couple of things to me. It was just like the need that we have for community, for simple connection, human interaction. He had no phone, no means of entertainment of any kind. He could read a book, but other than that, aside from his friends giving him hell and putting speakers on the space and vibrating the grounds, other than that, he literally had nothing but his mind. And an idle mind, they say, is a devil's playground, but it was sad to watch. And I'm watching it, and in real time, and you see that, and I'm like, my gosh, because we take for granted like the last shot, and you need to watch it, but just the shot of when they are digging him out on the 7th day, and the dirt pulling away from the top was glass or see-through, if you will. And the dirt pulling away and the sun coming through, it sounds really like a movie. Like I'm trying to make it sound, you know, like this beautiful thing, but it is amazing to watch his face. We take the simplest, most beautiful things for granted. And I was like, my gosh. So the doctor sees him up and is making sure that he doesn't just fall over from, you know, throwing a blood clot. But it could have been a very dangerous thing. Dude has such a budget. He's like, I'm gonna bury myself. Last time he had done this was a few years ago, and he did it for 50 hours. But he did it for 7 days. He survived. I mean, he lasted through the entire 7 days. I couldn't do that. I don't like confined spaces. I think it has to do with like trauma and so forth. But nonetheless, I don't even want to be in the ground. What do you want to be? Do you want to be in the ground? Like whether it be a cremation, your urn, or your casket, or do you want to be in like a mausoleum? Or do you want to be shot into the... Did you know the creator of Star Trek, he's one of only 150 people to be blasted into outer space? It's very true. Now, he was blasted in outer space in 1997, but the portion of his cremated remains, they kind of fell back into Earth's orbit and disintegrated. But they had another set. This is true. He's not yet been blasted back into space because they haven't scheduled it, but it will happen. Didn't know if you knew that or not. I want to be in a mausoleum. I mean, let me know what you want to be. If you want to be in a mausoleum, which is like an above ground, like tomb, or if you want to be in the ground. I mean, we've been getting pretty crazy with these series. It's insane. There's an upcoming one. I'll just let you in on a little secret. Did you know that there's a woman in Germany, 1992, she didn't have kids. She had $80 million, though. No one to give the money to, pass it on to. So she's like, you know what? Gunther, my German Shepherd, gets my money. $80 million. Of course, when she dies, he lives lavishly. And upon his death, Gunther IV, his son, and the money grew to be like $400 million. Now he's living. So I guess Gunther IV is going to have Gunther V and so forth. Nonetheless, it's going to be forever and always a Gunther party. And then, you know, you have people who look people up in the phone book and select 70 random names. And true story, he definitely did that. He died and 70 people were called up. Could you imagine getting a call? Getting a call, be like, hey, listen, this might sound weird, but I'm the attorney for the estate of, and you get a lot of money because he picked you out of the phone book. So that's what I do, guys. this is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I do to just relax, because it gets pretty stressful sometimes. It does. I don't know if your day is like that of I don't want to say mundane, because we even celebrate the mundane, but is your day like a conveyor belt? Is it the same things over and over, or is there a sense of variation? I don't ever have the ability to create any type of, because I do know that the only thing I know is from 9 to 10, I check my email. And after that, it's on like crazy. You have conference calls and this person, and I don't know. I got a free generator today. That's cool. that's cool, man. Yeah, how about those Lions? That's the same. Yeah, it's, there's beauty in it, the mundane. It's the grass is not greener. Like the idea for me of, I would love to just get my footing and have some sort of consistency. But I like what I have. And same for you. If you have this sense of consistency and you want something to spice it up, once you got outside of the consistency and it's spiced up, you're like, I don't like this. I mean, it's how life works. I wish we were not wired that way, or we could just kind of sit in it. Well, we can. I mean, we just choose to do it. We choose to sit and be like, you know what? I'm content. I'm good. I mean, we could have it, we could be like the Limp family and lose our kid and then have heavy suicide, tragedy after tragedy take those we love more than anything. And I would rather not. I don't know if you heard the podcast, this last episode of the podcast. It was kind of given just everything that's happening with the business aspect of, because if you've been around for quite some time, you've heard 3 seasons of the podcast. You've heard music and stories of how this is happening. You've seen inside the funeral homes. You've seen behind the scenes. You've seen all this stuff that's happening in real time. And it's just this slow grind and this slow build. And then you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, because all this stuff now, it's just constant noise. And luckily I have a management team, people who are like artists, musicians like myself. I mean, I don't just sit and create music all day long every day. I mean, it'd be cool in theory, but there's a lot of business stuff and meetings and Zoom meetings and talks of, oh, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And then you have to start taking and picking and choosing. And you're like, oh my gosh, it gets very noisy. And then sometimes you're like, I just want to write songs. I was supposed to have a writing session actually yesterday, because I had talked about writing if you heard a couple weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I have a writing session. We're going to actually be writing and recording a Christmas song for next Christmas. It got pushed to February 20th. I mean, that's how it is. It's literally just like this all the time. So we have a ton of shows in the works, tons of venues in talks with management. I have a management team, radio team, social media team. It's like insane. I'm like, can you give me an idea of when this is going to happen? So we kind of like to have just a little bit of a plan. Like, give me a week. Just give me 1 week. But it might literally be, you need to catch a plane tomorrow and fly to New York, fly to LA, fly to Texas, fly wherever. Apparently, the UK is a pushing for me to get there, which would be amazing to do, which would be awesome. But that is my life in a nutshell. If I'm not telling you stories of haunted houses, then I'm just keeping it going, And I hope that whatever it is you're doing, if you feel like, the best analogy I can give you, and I mean this, is I feel like a fucking monkey just talking sometimes. Like, I don't make any sense. I'm from this topic to the next topic, but I think that is endearing in the sense, like, you all expect that. You all know that that's just who I am. And sometimes you all might feel like you're just flailing in the water too. But that's what makes you you. That's what makes you unique. And that's what makes you, awesome to know. And I think it's important because I don't know that the world tells us enough that we're important and valued, and you are. I mean, you matter to so many people, and even if you feel that the number is small, the ripple is huge. So I was doing an interview for the Jim Brickman show. So Jim Brickman, he has like, he's the guy that when you were probably a kid, teenager, you'd go in Walmart and you see the CD kiosk and like easy listening, but he's a hell of a pianist. He's been nominated. I think he's won Grammy, but now he has a radio show and it's syndicated like 40, 50, 46, 30, I don't know, however many radio stations, but his program director was interviewing me and telling me stories of his dad. His dad at 36 had a brain aneurysm that essentially left him a version of himself until his death 30 years later. People who came to the visitation recalled and remembered the 36-year-old version of this man's dad and telling stories that were beautiful, and not just the stories that, like, oh, I remember when your dad was so nice, he gave me a cup of coffee. It was more like 30 years had passed, and so they remember the acts, the intentionality, the kindness that this man evoked to them at work and whatever in which they were doing. And I was honored that he had shared that story with me, but that applies to us. That's all. My rambling just basically means that we don't realize that we're doing something that's hopefully blessing other people. I mean, if you're choosing to be good and kind, but there are people who suck. Not saying that you're one of them. So I was always told and taught to have like a hobby. I was like, oh, I don't need a hobby. I'll just do this. And then whenever my brain was like going, I needed a hobby. And this is the hobby. So we went over some crazy places that you'll never find me at. Nonetheless, very interesting. And I hope that, if you ever find yourself there, that if you do, just let me know in the comments that you went or have gone, because you won't find me there ever. But I will read about it. Hope you have an incredible night. I'm going to go eat a banana and a bowl of cereal, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Hey, watch a video. There's a video out. There's a video, the visualizer, the one of me. Oh, I do have to jokingly say this. I love whoever wrote this, and I mean it. They said, and they were serious. They said, I love the video, and I really like your brother's energy. I don't have a twin. It was me. It was me, guys. It was me.